I've heard that up next you're going to be starring opposite Glenn Powell in Chad Powers on Hulu. He's been having the craziest year
The
ever.
craziest year. I don't know how he does it or when he sleeps or I don't know.
Kristen Maldonado here for Pop Culture Planet, where we cover the world of entertainment while shining a light on representation and inclusion. We are back with a brand new episode of the podcast, chatting with Frankie Rodriguez, who you might know best from High School Musical, the musical, the series. He's got a brand new show in the works called Chad Powers with Glenn Powell, and he's launched his own nail polish company, Freeland. Enjoy the conversation. I'm excited to talk with you about all the new things you're working on. I noticed the nails already. We've spoken a few times during High School Musical, and that show is just a theater kid's dream. So I was wondering if we could like go back to the beginning of sort of like where all this started for you. Like, did you always want to be an actor, a performer? Like, where did your love of entertainment come from?
Yeah, I grew up in a very musical family, so I feel like that kind of was the gateway to get me to theater. No one really acts in my family. Everybody just kind of plays instruments or sings. But I think Disney was that big influence that really kind of being able to see people sing on screen and dance and kind of encompass all of the things that I get to do now. So I say like Disney really inspired me to be that theater kid. And then of course from there I found Broadway and I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing.
Okay, favorite Broadway show.
Ooh, my favorite of all time is probably Hair. But I've been like in this new recent, like of the recent musicals, I think Waitress is probably like something I can turn on all the time and just sing along to.
I love Waitress. I don't know if you've listened to Sarah Bareilles' like just the
Yes,
solo album version. I'm like, oh, I love it.
it's so good.
You were also, the first openly gay character and also the first Latino character really to join the High School Musical sort of world. How did that feel?
It feels great. I mean, and I've said this from the beginning, like to get to be that representation that you didn't get to see growing up on something that you loved so much, and that was a huge part of your life. It feels like the best. And now that it's over, you kind of get to like look back and I'm really proud of the things that we got to do on the show and the stories that we got to share and the perspective that we got to share on that
I
show.
think it's so empowering, like you said, just to be able to see that, like, people were always unsure, was Gabriella Latino or not? But
Is
like,
she?
I don't think so. I think she was just Filipino. But so, to be able to see you on screen and
Yeah.
it's like the energy that you brought, it is so empowering and so exciting to be able to just like see ourselves in this world that, like I think everyone had their like High School Musical like moments growing up, you
Oh,
know?
for sure. Yeah.
Speaking of that representation, I was wondering, like, do you remember the first time you saw a character or a story on screen that you felt represented by and like how that kind of impacted you?
I kind of always go to Ugly Betty. Like back in the day, I think that was a show that was airing while I was a kid, and there was also a kid on that show. And everybody was like, "Oh my gosh, you remind me so much of that character from Ugly Betty." And I was like, "Okay," but I never really watched the show. But later in life, like looking up stuff now, I was like, "Oh, that would have been like the first kind of representation that I saw of myself represented on screen in more ways than one."
You mentioned, your love of theater and things like that. I know I feel like we've been seeing actually a lot of like young stars going from television to Broadway lately. Do you have aspirations or like a dream role that you'd love to like step into if you were like, it was like right now, go? What
Oh my
Broadway?
gosh, of course. Like especially now living in New York City and getting to see all of the theater up close and regularly, I'm like, oh my gosh, what I wouldn't give to, be on stage and, do like the stage door, like the whole like theater kid dream, basically. But I'm kind of drawing a blank on what I would want to be in that's currently on Broadway right now. But I don't know. It would be hard to say because I think there's just so many factors that go into it. But I see Back to the Future in your background,
Oh, yes.
which is currently running. And you know what? I'm gonna say Back to the Future. That would be so fun.
Oh my God, that show is
It was
crazy.
crazy. It was so
The
fun.
the car, the way they did all the stunt
Yeah.
and stuff, I'm unreal. You act, you sing, you dance, and now you're an entrepreneur. You're a CEO of your own company with Freeland, your new nail polish brand. So I'd love to hear like what inspired that. where your love of nail polish came from and why this was sort of like the right next move for you.
It started during the pandemic when I went live on Instagram and I invited anybody to come and paint their nails with me. And then to my surprise, people showed up. And then even more of a surprise, people also painted their nails. And then it started to become this thing that I just started doing regularly. So that kind of is what really inspired everything. And then now 4 years later, I was looking for a way to kind of amp up the experience. And I thought, should I partner with an existing nail brand? Should I like do a giveaway? Like, what can I do to kind of like keep people interested? And then the idea came where I was like, what if I just launched my own line of colors? And then that kind of like started the whole thing. And that was last September was that first initial idea. And so it's been a full year from concept to product in hand. So it's been kind of crazy. And my love for nail polish comes from my love of colors. I always said rainbow was my favorite color because I couldn't pick just one color because I loved them all and I loved how they all made me feel different things. Or so I guess it kind of just comes from that. And I just love how it's so small, it's so simple, but yet it makes such a big impact. And I love how quickly you can remove it and put on a new color.
Love that. The whole process, like what was that like going in and like figuring out the formula and picking the colors? Like I'm sure that was kind of like a completely different experience.
Yeah, and honestly, it was like the experience that was the most unknown, but it was also the most fulfilling creatively because I think I maybe tried over 150 samples to kind of put together this first collection of what was going to look the best, not only by themselves, but also together. And then also when you start pairing them together, I really wanted a collection that you could like mix and match and they would always match. So that was the birthday collection. But I do kind of like miss that like first initial response of like getting all of those samples and like trying everything out for the first time. It was really fun.
So do you have like another collection that you're like thinking about or is in the works, or like what do you see, I guess, is like the future of Freeland?
Yeah, I mean, the future of Freeland, the sky is the limit. And I want to do everything possible. And I would also love to expand past nail polish, but nail polish being like the center, the core. And I have, in terms of this year, I have so many more surprises coming up from here until the end of the year. So I'm very excited.
Oh, that's so awesome. That's very exciting. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I've heard that up next you're going to be starring opposite Glenn Powell in Chad Powers on Hulu. He's been having the craziest year
The
ever.
craziest year. I don't know how he does it or when he sleeps or I don't know.
Have you guys started any of that project yet, or are you excited for it? What can you tell us?
We are so close to starting very soon. And I am so excited. I've gotten like text messages about like what the certain costumes are going to look like and the feel of the show. And I've read a couple of episodes and I'm just like, get me on set. I am so ready.
And your character, right, is the mascot of the football team, correct?
Yes, the mascot of the football team. Yeah.
So
How
I'm I'm
fitting.
I'm wondering, are you gonna have to do a lot of training to kind of prepare to like be in a suit all day?
I mean, I'm so ready for it. I've already talked to some professional mascots, which has been fun and to kind of get the feel of what to expect, but also like maybe like are there any tips on movement and stuff and like what is allowed? And so I've already started the homework for that. But in terms of getting into the suit, I haven't done that yet, but I'm so excited.
That's gonna be so fun. I feel like the best part of acting to me sounds like the research part of just like learning from all these people and like getting to step into something that you would like never get to do on a normal basis.
Yeah, and it's so cool, and especially with this show because it's all about football, which is so far from anything that I do. So to get to be a part of this new world that has been so familiar for tons of people and tons of people relate to, going to games and all of that stuff. I'm excited to step into that world.
How do you get into character? Like, how do you develop the characters that you're portraying? I don't know, like some people have music or, actually create background stories. I don't know if you have a process that you like to do kind of going in.
Yeah, I mean, music always helps, like creating a playlist for the character, what they're going through. I think one thing I do love about working in television is that you don't get the whole script all at once. So it's like episode by episode. So you kind of can only make up a story up into that moment, which is so fun because you're really just living and breathing in that moment. And then you can kind of see, like, once the whole show is completed, like kind of like where those like points kind of connected. But in terms of like process, I think for me, it's just understanding tone is very important, making sure I'm like not overacting or underacting sometimes. Just make sure it's like the happy medium, but then also, you know, just the headspace of the character, and creating that world. Because some, of course, some stuff is made up by you, but then also the costume department has a big input on what the character dresses like. The hair department's going to have their input on what the hair should look like. So it's all these different mediums, and I go in with my prep, and it's really one of my favorite parts about stepping into a character is seeing what other people, what their interpretation of it was, and then kind of seeing how it all works together.
Oh, I love that. You kind of get, you know, a big amalgamation.
Yeah, it's very collaborative, which I really love.
Is there anything else that you want to share about, you know, what you're working on? Anything with your company or the other projects you have going on?
Just the fact that you can purchase Freeland. It's available now at lovefreeland.com. And then you can also follow our Instagram at lovefreelandco. And I'm trying to do the nail painting parties at least once a month. Hope we'll see if that lasts through the end of the year, but definitely one plan for next month. And so you can just kind of stay up to date on all of the fun stuff that's coming out.
Thank you so much for your time. Congratulations on everything. Hopefully we'll get to chat again for Chad Powers.
We will.
Yes, and just I'm so happy for you. You know, you're
Thank
killing it.
you.
It's been amazing following your career.
Oh, thank you. So nice to talk to you.
Thank you so much to Frankie Rodriguez for joining us in this episode of Pop Culture Planet, the podcast. You can watch the video podcast at youtube.com/kmaldo or listen on your favorite podcast listening platforms. And get even more insight at popcultureplanet.net. Keep up with the podcast by following me at kmaldo or the show at Pop Cult Planet. If you enjoyed the episodes, consider subscribing so you know when a new one is posted. Rate and review this podcast and share it with your fellow pop culture lovers. Thanks for listening. It's been a blast, and I'll catch you in the latest episode. Consider subscribing if you like this video and get even more entertainment news at popcultureplanet.net. See ya!